Okay, so we all know the saying, you are what you eat.
Hmm.
But what if it's actually more like you age like what you eat?
Oh, I like that.
Right. There's a recent study that suggests there actually might be some truth to that. It found a link between diet and how quickly we age on a cellular level. And that's what we're diving deep into today.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so we're going to be exploring a study that was published in Clinical Nutrition that looked at this connection specifically in twins.
Twins.
Yeah, twins.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting design, but we'll get into that in a minute. For now, let's just start with the basics.
Okay.
What are we even talking about when we say aging?
Well, it's more than just, wrinkles and gray hair.
Right.
We're talking about biological age, so how old your cells actually are versus your chronological age, which is just the number of years you've been alive. Everybody knows that.
Right. So like two people could be the same age, but their bodies are actually aging at different speeds.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like if you're comparing two cars from the same model year, one has been really babied, low mileage, always kept in the garage, looks brand new.
Right.
The other one, though, has been driven hard, maybe it has a few dings, the engine's not as smooth.
Got it.
Same age on paper, but their condition tells a completely different story. And that's kind of like biological versus chronological age.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But how do scientists actually measure biological age? I mean, it's not like checking the odometer on a car.
Right. Well, they've developed these tools. They're called epigenetic clocks.
Epigenetic clocks.
Yeah. And what they do is they look at patterns on your DNA. So you can think of DNA like a giant instruction manual for your body.
Wow.
And imagine like little sticky notes, we call them methylation marks, attached to that manual. And these sticky notes, they can actually change how the instructions are read. So they influence how your cells function and age.
So diet can actually affect those sticky notes on our DNA. That's kind of wild.
Exactly, yeah. And this twin study, that's what it digs into. The researchers wanted to see if diet was linked to biological age, and if so, how?
And this is where the twin study design gets super interesting, right? Why twins specifically?
Right. Because twins share nearly identical genes, so it's like having a built-in control group. Researchers can separate the impact of genetics from environmental factors, like diet. It's a really powerful way to see how much of aging is predetermined versus influenced by our choices.
It's nature versus nurture, but like with a scientific twist.
Right.
So what exactly did they find in this twin study?
So the study looked at young adults between 20 and 25 years old.
Okay.
And they found that twins who ate a lot of fruits, veggies, and they limited the processed foods, sugary drinks, red meat, they were aging slower biologically.
So even in our 20s, diet can have a noticeable impact. I bet that surprises a lot of people who really think they're invincible at that age.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call for sure. But here's the flip side. The twins who ate more of the naughty foods, the processed stuff, fast food, sugary drinks, lots of red meat, their biological clocks were ticking a bit faster.
Oh, wow. So those late-night burger runs could be doing more damage than we thought, even in our 20s. That's a little scary, but also kind of motivating to make some changes, honestly. But I mean, it wasn't only diet they looked at, right?
No, they also looked at other lifestyle factors like exercise, smoking, weight, those all play a role in aging too.
Right.
But what's really interesting is that diet still had an independent effect on biological age, even after they considered those other factors.
So no matter your lifestyle, what you eat still makes a difference.
Makes a big difference.
Okay, so we can't just hit the gym and call it a day.
Mm.
We got to pay attention to what we're putting into our bodies too. Now, I know you mentioned they accounted for those other factors, but let's go back to the twins for a second. I mean, what can we learn from comparing their results specifically?
Well, I think this study really highlighted the interplay of nature and nurture. Identical twins with their identical genes don't always age at the same rate. And that really points to the power of environmental factors like diet in influencing how our genes are expressed and ultimately how we age.
So it's not just about what genes we inherit. It's also about the choices we make that can help us, age well or not so well. This whole epigenetic clock thing is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about how those sticky notes on our DNA actually work?
Sure. So let's say you have a gene that's linked to inflammation.
Okay.
If there's a methylation mark, that sticky note attached to it, it might turn the inflammation up or down.
Interesting.
Now imagine that happening on thousands of genes all over your DNA.
Wow.
Diet can influence where those sticky notes land, turning genes on or off, affecting everything from your metabolism to your risk of disease and even how quickly your cells age. It's amazing.
So those dietary choices we're making, they're not just impacting our waistlines or like energy levels, they're actually influencing how our bodies function at the most fundamental level.
They really are. Yep.
That's incredible. But it also makes me wonder how these specific good and bad foods are actually interacting with our DNA. I mean, it's not like a cheeseburger goes in and like slaps a sticky note on your DNA directly.
Oh, no. It's more nuanced than that.
Okay, so how do these foods impact those methylation marks? I mean, walk me through it.
Well, think about the processed foods, sugary drinks, red meat. They often contain compounds that can trigger inflammation in the body.
Right.
And that inflammation can lead to changes in those methylation patterns,
Okay.
essentially speeding up the aging process.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's also about actively adding in the good stuff, like loading up on those colorful fruits and veggies.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think of it as a two-pronged approach to healthy aging.
I like that.
You want to minimize the things that contribute to cellular damage and inflammation while maximizing the things that protect and nourish your cells.
Makes sense. So what we're seeing in this twin study is just a snapshot of how these dietary choices can influence aging, even in young adults. But what about those long-term effects? What happens as we get older?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? If we're seeing these links in our 20s, what does that mean for our health and longevity down the road?
Right. And is it ever too late to make changes that could, benefit our health and maybe even rewind that biological clock a bit? These are questions we're going to explore further in our next segment, so stay tuned. So we've seen how diet can impact aging even in those young adults, but is there a larger research effort? Like, who else is really digging deep into this connection between what we eat and how we age?
Well, there's a group called Genactive, and they are doing some really fascinating work in this area. It's a group of scientists, and they're really dedicated to understanding the factors that influence biological aging and health. And you know what I find so interesting about their approach?
So sad.
It's that they're not just focused on, publishing research in those academic journals. They're very committed to actually translating those complex scientific findings into advice that people like you and me can actually use in our everyday lives.
Right, because it's one thing to know that diet can affect aging. Okay, we get that. But it's another thing entirely to actually know what to do about it.
Exactly.
So based on what we've learned from this twin study and the work of, groups like this Genactive, what are some actionable steps that we can take to support healthy aging? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the twin study itself gives us a pretty good roadmap.
Okay.
Remember those examples of foods that were linked to faster and slower aging?
Yeah.
I think if we revisit those, we can glean quite a bit of information from them.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. On the naughty list, we have red and processed meats, fast food, sugary drinks. So basically the usual suspects when it comes to, unhealthy eating. Not exactly a shocker, but I guess it's good to have that reminder.
Right, exactly. It's not exactly groundbreaking news, but, sometimes we need that reminder, right? And it's not to say that you can never enjoy these foods, but we really should think of them as occasional indulgences, not staples in our diet.
Got it. Moderation is key.
Exactly.
So on the flip side then, what were some of the foods that were linked to that slower biological aging? What should we be piling onto our plates?
Well, the study really emphasized diets rich in, vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
We're talking like leafy greens, colorful veggies like peppers and carrots, and then a variety of fruits.
So literally eating the rainbow seems to be a good strategy.
It really does, yeah.
Which makes sense because those foods are full of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, all that good stuff that can help protect ourselves from damage.
Exactly. And it's not just about the individual nutrients, but it's also the overall dietary pattern that seems to matter. Shifting away from processed foods and towards whole, unprocessed foods. That appears to have a very significant impact on aging, at least at the cellular level.
So it's really about making sustainable changes to our eating habits, not just quick fixes or fad diet.
Yes.
It's about creating a lifestyle that's going to support our health and well-being over the long term.
Absolutely.
This is all making a lot of sense to me, but I'm sure there are people listening who are thinking, well, my genes are my genes, so what's the point? Can I really change how I age?
That's a really common thought, and it's a very valid one.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like our genes are our destiny. But it's important to remember that they don't completely dictate our fate. They give us a blueprint. Yes, they do. But our lifestyle choices, and that includes what we eat, can really influence how those genes are expressed.
So even if someone might be predisposed to faster aging, they can still make choices that can have a positive impact.
Absolutely.
It's not a guarantee, of course,
Yeah.
but it's pretty empowering to know that we're not just passive passengers in this aging process.
It really is.
And, I mean, the twin study really highlights that, right?
Oh.
By comparing twins, they were able to isolate the impact of diet from genetics.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the twin study design. Even though genetics undeniably played a role, the researchers were very clear that healthy choices benefit everyone. It doesn't matter what your genes are.
Right.
It's a very powerful message of empowerment, I think. You know, we have more control over our health and our aging than we might realize.
That's a really encouraging thought. So it's not about, striving for immortality. It's about aging gracefully and maintaining our health and vitality for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But this study specifically looked at young adults, right?
Yes.
So what about those of us who are, well, let's just say we've enjoyed a few more fast food meals in our lifetime? Is it too late to make changes that could benefit our health? Could we even, potentially rewind that biological clock a little bit?
That's the million-dollar question. And while this particular study doesn't give us a definitive answer, it certainly opens up some intriguing possibilities, and it's important to remember that our bodies are very resilient
Okay.
and adaptable, even if we haven't always made the, healthiest choices.
So you're saying there's still hope for us seasoned folks?
There absolutely is.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
But realistically, what kind of changes are we talking about at this stage? I mean, is it just a matter of following the same advice as those younger adults?
Well, fundamentally, yes. The same principles apply.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what your age is.
Yeah.
You want to focus on a diet that is rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean protein.
Okay.
Maybe with a little more emphasis on portion control as our metabolisms naturally slow down a bit over time.
Right, makes sense. So basically the same advice we'd give to those young adults in the study, just maybe with a little more fine-tuning for our stage of life.
Exactly.
And of course, regular exercise is still really crucial at this point too.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about weight management. It's about keeping our cells active and, functioning the way they're supposed to. And we can't forget about things like managing our stress and getting enough sleep.
Right.
All of those lifestyle factors, they all contribute to our overall health and well-being, which ultimately has an impact on how we age.
So it's a lot to juggle, but it's really an investment in our future selves.
It really is.
Right.
Even small changes, if you apply them consistently, can make a big difference, especially over time.
It can add up. So to bring it all back to this twin study, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners today?
I would say that the most important takeaway is that what we eat matters.
Okay.
It has a real impact on how we age, even at a cellular level. But the good news is that it's never too late to start making changes.
Right.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
It's about doing what we can.
Exactly. And every healthy choice that you make is a step in the right direction.
Love that. So for all of you listening, take a moment to just think about your own dietary choices. What small changes can you make today to support healthy aging? Maybe swap out that sugary soda for a glass of water, or maybe add an extra serving of veggies to your dinner tonight. Remember, this is not about deprivation. It's about nourishing your body with the foods it needs to thrive.
And let's not forget, the journey of aging is a marathon. It's not a sprint, so we have to pace ourselves.
That's right.
Make those sustainable changes and enjoy the ride.
Well said. That's such an important reminder. We can't stop time, but we can certainly make choices that will allow us to, age gracefully and live our best lives at every stage. And we'll be back in just a moment to explore that idea even further. It's funny, we talk about this whole anti-aging thing, like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But isn't aging just a natural part of life?
It is. It's a natural part of life, and I think maybe the issue is that we view it as only as decline,
Right.
as deterioration.
It's like we're fighting against time instead of embracing the journey.
Exactly.
Right.
What if instead of just living longer,
Yeah.
we focused on living better?
Ooh, I like that. So it's not just about quantity years, it's about the quality of those years.
Exactly. And that's where all this research on, diet and biological age gets really empowering,
Right.
because it suggests that we can actually influence how we age,
Yeah.
not just how long we live.
So it's less about erasing wrinkles and more about feeling vibrant and healthy, regardless of our chronological age.
Yes. It's about having the energy to do the things that you're passionate about.
Right.
It's about having the mental clarity to really engage with the world around you.
Yeah.
The physical resilience to bounce back from challenges.
I love that. We're redefining what it means to age gracefully.
We really are.
Right.
And the best part is, it's a definition that is accessible to everyone.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your genes are or what choices you've made in the past.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating world of diet and aging, I think the key takeaway here is that while we can't stop time, we can make choices that support healthy aging and allow us to live our best lives at every stage.
We really can. And maybe, just maybe, those choices can help us rewrite the whole narrative of aging, from one of decline to one of continuous growth, vitality, and exploration.
It's a beautiful thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into diet and aging. We hope you learned something new today and are feeling inspired to maybe make some positive changes in your own life.
It was a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you, and until next time, stay curious, stay healthy, and keep diving deep.